So I had mentioned krill as a kind of little shrimp-looking like thing that grows during the spring bloom in the Southern Ocean. Right? You remember this animation of the ocean color from CWIFs that we saw, which shows the terrestrial biosphere greening and browning with seasons, and the spring bloom at high latitudes and the seasonality of the bloom in the tropics and in the coastal regions and so on. If you look at the interannual or year-to-year variability of ocean color, which you can find on NASA website, you will see the impact of El Nino and La Nina as well. Right? During El Nino, you expect upwelling to be reduced, ocean color to be reduced. But here, as the ITCZ moves north with the sun, trade winds get stronger. So July, August, September is when the bloom upwelling is the strongest and the blooms are the strongest, and the currents are so strong that you get instabilities and waves, and in fact if you look carefully you can see some waves there as well. But nonetheless, going back to the Southern Ocean, in the Southern Ocean spring, you obviously get a spring bloom just like the Northern Hemisphere polar region spring bloom that we saw. So as diatoms and other species of phytoplankton grow rapidly when the sun comes up on the horizon, a nutrient is always available because it's well mixed, no thermocline and so on. Krill grow with a bit of a lag. So many humpback whales from the West Australian region and blue whales all the way from the North Pacific migrate across all the way to the Southern Ocean to time their arrival to the krill bloom in the Southern Ocean. You can see this picture here of a krill bloom. Okay, many billion tons of krill bloom in the Southern Ocean during the spring, and whales, which are blue whales, are as long as a three school buses. That's a very long animal, huge, the largest animal in the world. It's a mammal, and it brings its calves, which need very nutritious food, so the mothers nurse them. So mothers need nutritious food to produce nutritious milk, and the krill, which is just one level above primary producers. Remember what we said before. The energy content of the food in the lower in the food web is higher. As you go above, the energy is lost, right? So krill is very nutritious. So blue whales go down there just to eat this krill to make their babies bigger. When they're born itself, they're about 7 meters long. By the time they finish feeding, they get to something like 20 meters, and then they grow to be 3 buses long and so on, right? So that's a long way to go to find the food, but that's evolution, and they have managed to successfully do this. Of course, with global warming, there is some evidence already that krill bloom is affected, and as we said before, the ozone hole and the UV also seems to have affected the chlorophyll bloom in the Southern Ocean, which would affect the krill bloom as well. Plus, ozone hole also affects the animals that go down there, so they have found many whales with skin lesions like skin cancer because of exposure to ozone. Ozone is not good for anybody, right? So ozone hole is bad for all life forms. UV damages not only the skin but even the DNA. So it's dangerous at high doses and high exposure. Okay, so krill buffet down here in the Southern Ocean for different types of whales is a very nutritious food. And again, just to remind you, krill stays at an angle. If it stops swimming, it'll sink, so it'll constantly be swimming, which mixes up the water and increases oxygen. So it may be an adaptation to maintain oxygen, or it may be an adaptation to create so much turbulence and bubbles that the predators cannot see them. Of course, it doesn't work for a whale, as I said before, which can just open its wide mouth and boom, drink up gallons of water, millions of gallons of water, and spit out the water and just keep the krill. How is it that a big whale like that can eat krill? How much does it have to eat? Imagine an adult eating ants for a meal. How many ants do you have to eat? Literally, that's the calculation of how many krill a blue whale has to eat. It's like an adult eating ants. That's a lot of ants one would have to eat. Okay, fascinating story of the Southern Ocean and the krill. You can find fantastic videos if you go online. I'm not going to say much more, but just wanted to make that into a little podcast as well. Fascinating? Yes, it is.